So let's talk about pools and pool barriers. Although a pool can help your property rent faster, it is also a huge liability. Landlords with pools face several unique challenges, including maintenance costs, compliance with safety laws, liability risks, all kinds of other things. So in this video, I'll show you how to avoid some of the pitfalls related to pools, plus I'll introduce you to the Arizona-specific pool barrier law that you must follow. Hi, my name is Steve Schultz with Blue Fox Properties here in Tucson, Arizona. We specialize in managing rental houses, and we've been doing so since 2009. So let's dive in. The pros and cons of renting a house with a pool. So the advantages. So when people move to Tucson, everyone wants a pool, right? You're moving to Tucson, it's hot, the weather's gonna be great, perfect pool weather, I want a pool. So everybody when they move to Tucson wants a pool. All things being equal, a house with a pool will typically rent faster than one without, and a house with a pool can rent for about $200 to $300 per month more in terms of rental rate. So those are the advantages. So let's talk about the disadvantages. So let's start with the maintenance costs. Maintenance costs usually are in the range of $150 to $200 per month. And I always recommend the landlord pay for this so you know it's being done and done correctly. The other thing is going to be a disadvantage is the increased liability exposure. So you got drowning, potential injuries, right? Somebody dives in the pool, breaks their neck, something crazy, right? So huge liability risk and also higher insurance costs. So if you look at just purely from a monetary perspective, you know, it's going to be about a wash in terms of the additional rent you get in, but then the maintenance costs you pay. So it's going to be close to a wash in that regard. But the other thing is that huge liability, right? So that's something I want to talk more about, and specifically as it relates to pool barrier laws. So in Arizona, there is a state pool barrier law, and the state has its requirements, but also the locale may have additional requirements as well. So check wherever you are locally to see what their requirements are. They may be more stringent. So what we're going to talk about is Arizona Revised Statute 36-1681. And I'm just going to hit some of the highlights, but I encourage you to Google that to check it out and take a look. Again, that's Arizona Revised Statute 36-1681, and that will give you the entire statute in detail. So first of all, let's define what a pool is per the state law. So the first line reads, and I quote, "A swimming pool or other contained body of water that contains water 18 inches or more in depth at any point and that is wider than 8 feet at any point and is intended for swimming shall be protected by an enclosure surrounding the pool area as provided in this section." So the barrier requirements are: the fence must be at least 5 feet high, the gaps or openings no larger than 4 inches. So here in Tucson, it's very common for pool fencing to be wrought iron. So you want to make sure that those are no larger than 4 inches spaced apart, the bars. So the idea behind that is a child's head. If their head can fit through that, then the rest of their body can too. So that's the idea behind the 4 inches. You want to make sure a child cannot get in that pool. It also, the barrier must completely surround the pool area, be self-closing and self-latching gates. Those are also required. And then the latches must be at least 54 inches from the ground. Again, the idea is so that a child can reach that. The gates must open outward away from the pool, and there cannot be any climbable objects within 3 feet of the fence. So the idea again here is you don't want a stack of boxes or steps or something like that right next to the fence where a child could climb up, get over the fence, hurt themselves, right? So that's the idea behind that. Now, if the back of the house constitutes part of the enclosures required, then they're also one of 3 things as well. So that's very common. Obviously, usually the pool is in the backyard, so the back of the house is going to serve as that barrier. So the 3 things are either a 4 foot, not 5 foot, 4 foot barrier between the house and the pool, or a motorized safety pool cover that meets ASTM standards, or all ground level doors or other doors with direct access to the pool shall be equipped with a self-latching device 54 inches above the floor. So the other thing is, don't forget about windows and doggy doors. These are some things that are often forgotten, and a lot of times a doggy door door is plenty big enough for a child to get through. So you want to make sure you take a look at those as well. So my recommendation for you is, one, include a pool barrier inspection prior to renting the property, and then also include lease language that the tenant cannot remove or disable safety features. So another thing that's really common here in Tucson for the pool fencing is it's kind of a mesh material fencing, and it's often removable. So you want to make sure the tenants know you cannot remove that fencing and the gate and all that stuff. It has to stay there, has to stay installed. And then also, I would definitely recommend having an annual inspection. So the risks are huge if you don't follow the law. Number one, the massive liability we already talked about. If the child drowns due to inadequate barriers, you are going to be in serious legal problems if that ever were to come pass and you did not have the adequate barriers to protect that from happening. The other thing too is insurance may deny claims if the barriers don't meet code. So another reason to make sure that you follow the law. So in summary, you must be familiar with pool barrier laws if you have a rental house with a pool, and you must obtain the proper insurance to help protect yourself. So remember, properties with pools will increase your rent, but also your liability. So follow the barrier laws to protect yourself and your tenant. And by the way, if you don't want to deal with any of this and you have a rental house in the Tucson area, you can visit our website at bluefoxproperties.com and see if we might be a good fit for you to manage your rental. I hope this video was helpful. Subscribe below for more landlord tips like this.